If we could stop caring about what everyone else thinks of us, we can start focusing on building our agency, and we can start setting up as many appointments as possible. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You will win. Today, what I want to talk about is 3 things that's going to help you outlast the temporary. You guys get on that? The title of tonight's training was The Winning Formula, or the formula for winning. And so I want to give you some things that's going to help you outlast the temporary so you can go win for you and your family. Well, the first thing I want to talk to you guys about tonight is approval addiction. We need to desensitize ourselves from what others think. Last week, I got to spend time with a gentleman by the name of Steve Siebel. He wrote the first book that I ever read cover to cover. I don't know if you're anything like me. I have a really hard time paying attention as I read. Okay, I'm like reading the book, thinking about 40 other things as I'm trying to read the book. And one thing I love about 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class is it's 177 chapters, and every chapter is about a half a page long. And so it's just bite-sized stuff. And Steve Siebel has the longest study of how successful people think. He's interviewed more self-made millionaires and self-made billionaires than anyone on the planet. He interviews elite performers, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, professional athletes, top CEOs. He was brought in to keep Johnson & Johnson or scale Johnson & Johnson. He's brought in to train the Navy SEALs. He's someone that when the Navy SEALs, when they graduate buds and they make it through Navy SEALs, he's someone that they bring in to help train them and coach them on mental toughness so that way they can outlast the temporary. And out of all of his research, he said, this is what I found. He said, the number one reason people do not go on to become successful in life, it's because of their addiction to what other people think. They're addicted to what other people think, which is crazy to think about. But it's the number one reason. Most people think that top addictions in the world is drugs or alcohol or, porn or whatever it might be. And you know what Steve Siebel says? It's none of those things. The number one addiction in the world is approval addiction. The average person seeks approval before they do anything, or the average person, when they don't get approval, they stop taking action and they just retreat. Most people retreat. Why? Because they don't get someone's approval. And I want to be very clear with you guys. I'm going to stop sharing, then I'll share back. This is something that I struggled a lot with. I don't know about you guys, but I was once addicted to what everyone else thought. Anybody else feel that way? I once cared about what everyone thought around me. I cared about what my mommy thought, my daddy thought, my brothers thought. I cared about what I thought. I was like, what do all my friends, what are they going to say about me? What are they going to think about me? And all I was thinking about was what they were thinking about me. And then you come to find out that nobody's thinking about you. All they're thinking about is themselves while you're thinking about you. And so you are literally depressed and or scared and or nervous for no reason because they weren't even thinking about you. Guys, let me just give you a breakdown. My biggest fear my entire life was public speaking and being on stage. I had the biggest stage fright more than you can ever imagine. And most people, when they hear me now, they're like, there's no way that's true. No, it is 100% true. I can call my mom. Okay. My mom is a worship leader. And so one of the things that my mom would do is every Christmas, she would put on these performances, and she had a daycare with hundreds of kids in it. And every winter they would do a Christmas program, and there'd be a couple hundred kids. They would all stand up on stage together. Their parents would come, they would sit in the pews, and you would sing worship songs, your Christmas worship songs, and do a special performance on maybe Christmas Eve or whatever it might be. And there'd be hundreds of kids up on stage. And we would train for months and months and months. And for 14 straight years. Do you know where they found me the night of the performance? They didn't. I was hiding under my mom's piano. My mom's piano had a skirt that went all the way to the floor, grand piano. For those of you who are pianists, you know what I'm talking about. There was a skirt that went all the way to the floor. And I would hide under that piano because I was so scared out of my mind to be on stage. And it would be one thing if I had a solo. There was 300 other kids. How do you have stage fright when there's 300 of you? That doesn't even make, there was more kids on stage than people in the audience because most people had 2 or 3 kids in the program. And so there was more people on stage. And I was so scared out of my mind of public speaking and being up on stage that I would hide under my mom's piano. Why? Because my approval addiction was so high. Something like, Matt, what does that have to do with approval addiction? Guys, we speak all day long. Like, how many of you said some words today? But if I throw you up in front of 500 people, how many of you get nervous? Let's just be real. Call a spade here. Most people, do you know why? Because you're thinking about what the audience is thinking of you. Ain't that something? You speak all day long, and then all of a sudden you have to speak in front of people, and then all of a sudden you're nervous. When you just spoke all day long, why is it any different? It's not any different. The only difference is you're afraid of what other people are thinking of you, and then it makes you self-conscious, and all of a sudden you're what? You get nervous, you get scared, you get fearful. That was me too, and I just want you to know that. That was me too. And so I want to go over some things, and I think it's going to help you get rid of that addiction to what other people think, because I want to be very clear with you. If you continue to go through life always caring about what other people think about you, you are going to miss your goals and you're going to miss your dreams. You know, there was a moment in the beginning of my career where I was just so afraid to do everything that this business had. I was afraid to set up field training appointments. I was afraid to build my agency. I was afraid to make phone calls. I was afraid to talk in front of people. I was afraid to conduct an interview or take something through the system. I was so afraid of it all. And then one day I was listening to an audio. I forget what the audio was. And the quote said, you either face your fears today or you're going to regret in 20 years that you didn't. You either face your fears today or you're going to regret in 20 years that you didn't. I was like, I'm going to go face them right now. And I was feeling courageous because I heard that quote. And I sent a message. I'm like, put me up on stage this Saturday. And then the closer Saturday got, the more and more nervous. But I couldn't back out. And so in a courageous moment, I decided to say something courageous. And then it forced me to step into leadership when I was afraid to. So let's just ask ourselves a couple of questions here. Am I less of a person because someone doesn't support me or agree with me? Am I less of a person because someone doesn't support me or agree with me? Okay, and I was going to the next question. Does the person who is rejecting me or unsupportive have the life I want? Isn't it funny that the people who tend to give the most constructive criticism haven't constructed anything? Just think about this logically. Hey, person who's not where I want to be, I'm going to allow your opinion to affect me getting to where I want to be. Logically think about this for a second, guys. When you take advice from people who are not where you want to be, when you allow the opinions of people who are not where you want to be influence your decision making and the actions that you take, just think about how ridiculous this sounds. Hey, person who's not where I want to be, I'm going to allow your opinion to affect me getting to where I want to be. Doesn't that just sound insane? Yeah, guess what? That's exactly what most people do. They care so much about what other people think. Am I going to allow someone's opinion to affect my ability to win and produce a better life for my family? I remember coming into this and I had friends and family. I kid you not, I had a youth pastor who was my youth pastor growing up. And I remember telling him I got brought into this industry. And he said, hey, I would like to go out to lunch with you. And he was a great man. Not a bad man in any way. Tons of integrity, great morals, great values. But he took me out to lunch, and for an hour and a half at 19 years old, he told me that I'm part of a pyramid scheme, that nobody wins in our industry, yada, 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 for an hour and a half. And he was an influential figure in my life. And it hurt knowing that somebody I care so much about had such negative things to say about the future I was trying to build for me and my family. I'm so glad I didn't listen to him. He's not a bad guy still to this day, great guy, but he was operating in fear, and he was operating from a lack of understanding, and he was operating without facts. And I said, I'm not going to allow it to influence me. Okay? I said, does he have the income that I want to have? No. Does he have the life that I want to have? No. Does he have the freedom that I want to have? No. Can he go hang out with his kids whenever he wants to, or does he have to ask someone for permission? He has to ask someone for permission. I don't want that. Doesn't make him bad. I just don't want that for me. So I said, respectfully, I love you, but I'm going to love you from a distance, and I'm going to go win. If I listen to their opinion, will it get me closer to my dreams and goals? Ooh, Yes, no, probably not. Okay. So it doesn't mean you disrespect them. It doesn't mean you're rude. It doesn't mean you say, hey, you're not where I want to be, so I'm not going to listen to you. You shouldn't say those type of things. There's no integrity in that. But like you can just know, hey, I respect your opinion, but I'm going to respectfully go in this direction regardless. Does this make sense? This is everything to you winning. So now let's talk about the winning formula. Desensitizing ourselves. How do we desensitize ourselves? Number one, we operate from logic by asking yourself those questions. But A, it's just realizing not everyone will like you or support you. It's impossible. If I wanted to be liked, I would go sell ice cream. Okay? That's it. But accept that not everyone will like you or support you. And I think the faster we can accept that, the better. If you are waiting for everyone's support before you execute, you're going to execute out of the business very quickly. And not just this business, every business. Because you're never going to have everyone's support. So if you're waiting to take action until things are perfect, that's a bad strategy. Okay? B, stop outsourcing self-worth. Ooh, I love that one. Stop outsourcing self-worth. I'm not looking to you for validation. I'm just looking for you for support. And if you give support, awesome. If you don't, my self-worth is still intact because your opinion does not determine my self-worth. C, don't avoid rejection. Accept it as the price of ambition. Hey guys, I want to be very clear with you. Winning feels like failure as you win. Success feels like failure as you are building success. Success never feels successful as you're building success. It never feels like as you're building success and you never feel successful. I want to be very clear with you on that. Don't avoid rejection. Accept it as the price of ambition. You said that you have a big goal. You said that you have big dreams. Well, guess what? You got to accept rejection as part of the price of a big goal and a big dream. Did you know that Ethos went to 41 different venture capitalists and banks? And 41 of the largest venture capitalists and banks said it was a horrible idea, that it was a stupid idea, and that you should just stop now. 41 times they were rejected. But on the 42nd time, my good friend Peter Colas, CEO and founder of Ethos, had Sequoia Capital say, we'll give you $250 million. And now you look at Ethos, who just IPO'd a technology underwriting engine that changed the face of life insurance. They were rejected 41 times by the biggest banks, biggest venture capitalists in the world, saying it was a dumb and a stupid idea. And yet they kept on going. Do you want to know why? Because they weren't looking for validation. They knew in their heart the idea was a great idea. They weren't looking for validation. They were looking for capital. Two different things. Make sense? Some of us were looking for validation. And then that's why we get discouraged. D, build your identity around standards, not opinions. Instead of asking, do people approve this? Ask, did I honor my commitments today? So I think sometimes we look at our own self-worth. We talked about this a second ago. We look at our self-worth and we say, okay, if Rich, Ashley, and Robert approve this, I have high self-worth. But if they don't approve this, I have low self-worth. Is that a good way or a bad way to look at things? Bad way. Your self-worth should not be tied to what other people think. Your self-worth should be tied to your creator, number one, first and foremost. Number two, it should be tied to, do I keep and honor the commitments that I make to myself? If I honor my commitments, I have high self-worth because I do what I say I'm going to do. If I say I'm going to make X amount of phone calls a day, I make them. If I say I'm going to do X amount of appointments, I do them. If I say I'm going to set 10 field trainings, I set them. Like, it just comes down to, I honor my commitment. If I say I'm going to do 117 this week, I actually do it. Build your identity around standards, not opinions. E, prioritize results over popularity. Champions make decisions based on what moves them forward, not on what earns them an applause. Let me say it again. Champions take action based off what moves the needle and gets them closer to their goals and dreams. They don't take action based off what's going to get them the greatest applause. If you do that, you're going to work for somebody else the rest of your life. Matt, what are you talking about? Go post on Facebook that you got a new job and see how many likes and comments you get. And then go post on Facebook that you started a new business and see how many likes and comments you get. Ain't that something? I was looking for applause. Let's say I went and got a job. I'm not looking for an applause. If I want what others have, I got to be willing to do what others aren't willing to do. It's the reality of it. Make sense? So, winning formula. Number one is what? We got to desensitize ourselves from approval addiction. Number two, we have to fall in love and understand that this business changes lives. Why would we keep this business to ourselves if we know, Matt Lloyd, that people's lives are going to be better on the other side of it? Number three, volume, volume, volume. How many of us would agree that Steph Curry is probably the greatest three-point shooter of all time? So check this out. For 21 years straight, he's taken 500 three-pointers a day. For 21 years. Check this out. Without negotiation. That is his minimum standard of excellence every day. 500. 500 times 365 is 182,500 shots a year times 21. That's 3.8 million shots over his NBA career that he's made in practice, or that he took in practice. This doesn't include 0 to 18 before he went into the NBA. This is just since he went into the NBA, 3.8 million three-pointers. So he took 3.8 million shots in practice to make 4,900 shots in the game. And people are like, oh my gosh, he's the greatest player. He was just naturally gifted. God just created him out the womb with this ability to just hit a three-pointer from the opposing side of the court's three-point line. Like, no, not even close. The man put in the work. He did volume, 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 and one day became so skilled that now he's the greatest he's the greatest three-point shooter of all time. And once again, I'm not a Golden State Warriors fan. I'm a fan of greatness. So let me ask you a question. If I set up more interviews, am I likely to get more directs? Yeah. If I go on more interviews, am I likely to become more effective at doing them? Yeah. So it's not that it doesn't work, it's that you're not good yet. Why? You haven't done enough. Why? You got to do volume, volume, volume. If I call more leads, am I likely to have more clients? Absolutely. What is my point here, guys? The person who makes the most phone calls wins. The person that goes on the most appointments wins. Why is this the winning formula? Because if we could stop caring about what everyone else thinks of us, we can start focusing on building our agency, and we can start setting up as many appointments as possible. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You will win. Let's get it.